Hello and welcome to the Aligned Podcast. This podcast is created for anybody who wants to better themselves in any way possible. I am joined today by my co-host, Tom Waller. How's it going, Tom?
Great, Lise. Good to see you, mate.
Good. We have had an upgrade this week.
We have had an upgrade. Look at these, well, they're not cameras, they're microphones, aren't they?
Yeah, they are awesome. So the sound quality, though it was okay before, should be much better this time.
I love how excited you get about these mics, to be honest.
I'm a tech nerd, mate. It's ingrained in me.
It's nice what people are seeing from the camera. You're seeing these beautiful microphones if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, go and look up us on YouTube. But what you can't see is the towel that we've just put over the window, because the beautiful sunlight's coming through, but it's not that good for our image, is it?
No, I was a bit blown out. So we have improvised and it has worked a treat. Great idea.
Treat. So, I'm excited to be here again today, Lee. We were talking before the show because we're both training really hard at the moment. And we're both taking a bit of pre-workout at the moment. And I wanted to tell you a story because I think it's funny for our listeners. So several years ago, I did something called Cycle Challenge Wales, which is where you climb the three biggest mountains in Wales. You start by climbing Snowdon. Then you cycle from Snowdon to Cadair Idris, climb Cadair Idris, stay overnight, and then cycle from the north of Wales to the south of Wales and climb Pen y Fan. And I remember starting with my mate, and me and him were proper gym nerds. And we started off the climb, and he goes, "Tom, do you want some pre-workout, mate?" I'm like, "Dude, we're on an aerobic hike here." And he's like, "No, mate, just do it." So we both took 2 scoops of pre-workout straight down the hatch, no water. And we're both there, like, faces tingling, like, fucking rage at the start. 20 minutes later, screwed for the rest of the day.
Totally crashed.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it gets your face tingling, doesn't it? It's something that I've not really used loads before, but recently I have, and I started taking it and didn't realise that it had creatine in it. But fortunately, I wasn't already taking it, so all good.
I think creatine's, like, I've done loads of supplements over the years, and I cycle phases. So I do a phase, like, I'll do a couple of weeks of it, then I'll have a break, and then I'll do a bit more. Yeah. Creatine, if you want to put on mass, I think it's really good. If you want to cut, then not for the long run. Yeah.
So I'm in a cut phase at the minute, so maybe I should knock it on the head, but we'll see.
So what are we talking about today?
So today, this episode is going to be all about values and
gifts,
using your gifts and the values that you have in business, life, family.
And I think it's an important one for us to touch on because there has been so much, and what I want to get into is a little bit, was there's been so much about you should know your values, know what you want to do, know your purpose. And a lot of it gets very airy-fairy in the sense that people just focus so much on figuring out their values and their purpose and doing no work at the end of the day. So I thought it'd be good to have a conversation around that. It's something when I coach clients, the first thing I work on with them is their values, then their gifts. And values are essentially what you stand for, who you are, and how you want to be showing up in the world. It's what you tolerate and what you accept. And then your gifts are the vehicle that brings your value to the world. Like, how are you bringing your value to the world? So your gifts are very different from mine. Yeah. You have a huge gift for technology, media, getting a message across through digital means, which some other people would not have. And there's no point in them even trying to pursue that because that's not their gift. Yeah. But we have to underpin it at the start with our values, and that's who we are and what we do. And the biggest thing I find that stops people with their values is they end up in what we call social idealisms, the shoulds and the musts of life. Like, they feel they should. The biggest one I find, and I'm stop me in a minute because I'm going off on one. The biggest one I find on people is they say, my biggest value is my family. My biggest value is my family. And then I look at their life and they're going to work all the time. They're in the gym. They're pursuing greatness, for a better word, but they're not spending too much time with their family. Yeah. And I say, well, maybe your number one value isn't your family. Maybe it's something very important to you, but your value is provision. Your value is recognition. And in provision and recognition, then you provide for your family. But if you say your value is your family because you think it should be, you'll end up in perpetual frustration because you want to be doing this, yet you feel you should be doing this, and then you end up doing nothing at all.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of this. So my one of my massive drivers in life and business is my family and to provide for them. But I've been guilty in the past of neglecting time with them in the pursuit of providing for them.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. So it's a bit of a balance.
It is a balance. I think conversation is really good to have with family about that.
Yeah.
So for instance, I mean, this morning, even for example, and we're going to do an episode on planning the week. I planned my week, and I planned 2 hours into the diary this morning to spend with Sarah. Mm-hmm. And she comes down, she sees my diary open on the side. She says, "Oh, aren't I lucky I've got 2 hours with you today?" I'm like, shit. But for me, like, quality time isn't a value of mine. I love spending time with Sarah, but quality value isn't necessarily a value of mine. Yeah, significance is one of my biggest drivers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when we drive into significance, we lose connection. So having that understanding with significant others of, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this with you, I think is a really important thing to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And we spoke about this. When did I get adjusted? Yesterday. I got adjusted yesterday, and I said to you about values, and it's not something that I really have structured and think about. But when I got home, I was thinking about it. And currently I work alone in my business because I've structured it in a way that it's possible to do and it works well. But previously I had a team. And when I had the team, I did write down the values. So I've got those today, and I looked back at them and I live by them every day. But for me, they're ingrained, so I don't think about them all the time. But when I had a team members, and I wanted them to live by similar values for the business and to produce at a level for our clients, I had them printed off and on the wall in the office where we were all working. And the number one value was take 100% responsibility.
And I'm digging this because I did a blog on this for my people this week, and I've done some coaching with a couple of people. Did they live by that?
My team?
Yeah.
No.
So this is really interesting. So I wrote an article on this this week for my group, and it said your values are not just a poster on the wall. Was the title of it?
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately what ends up happening.
It is.
I remember the first time I got introduced to values or saw values, I went into Hertz Hire Car, and I noticed it was a poster on the wall. I thought, what's that poster? And it said the values, but it was tatty. It was I think it said something like excellence or appearance. And I turned around and the office was like totally not that.
Yeah.
So values, to make them stick, have to be relentless communication thereof.
Yeah.
And leading by example. So if you come in, you met the team, and you'll know in the waiting area of my practice, the values are on the wall.
Yeah.
But the team also know that every time I have a conversation with them, I link every single conversation I have with them back to the values. Even if it is, what are you doing on the weekend? Oh, I'm going out and trying this new restaurant. I said, brilliant. You're taking initiative and responsibility, and you're pursuing excellence in learning something new.
Yeah.
It's always back to the values that we uphold. But I think that the number one person to do it is you, isn't it?
Yeah, to lead by example, yeah. But the 100% responsibility for me stands for being responsible for everything in your life, whether that's good or bad, and every decision that you've ever made in the past is why you are where you are now. And if you want to change that, there's only one person who can do it. Just like you say with chiropractic, there's only one person who can get you better.
It's you.
Yeah. So,
but that's true, and a lot of people don't like to take that. So, for instance, we had a team member recently that we had to let go of, and I could have blamed her in the team meeting because I said she was rubbish. She didn't stick up to the value. She didn't do what we asked. And I said the team meeting. I started the team meeting after we asked her to leave, and I said, "I'm sorry, guys. I dropped the ball here because I hired her, and I didn't take the initiative and responsibility early enough to let her go, and I didn't see my task through to completion when I was hiring her by doing due diligence on her background." So I could have said that bad apple came into our business, changed the culture for a short period of time, and I could have blamed her, but it was ultimately my responsibility. So I love that value as having one.
Yeah. Yeah. So your core values then, do you want to run through them?
So my values are the same for all of my businesses. We have initiative and responsibility, which is things like seeing your task through to completion. If you see something, do it. Don't wait. Don't give it to someone else. But within that, one can take initiative and responsibility for a task, yet delegate out.
Yeah.
So long as someone is ultimately responsible. And that comes down into a business. If you own a business, having something called an org chart, an organization chart of who sits on what seat. But again, topic for another day.
Yeah.
Loyalty. Loyalty to our team, each other, and then loyalty to our customers. And also within my practice, loyalty to the understanding that health comes from within, which is something that we teach and preach.
Yeah.
We have excellence. So we pursue excellence in everything that we do. Always trying to learn, grow, and do something new. And big heart. And big heart is essentially everything we do. We show up with 100% energy. We do pre-shifts before every day, which means that if anyone's got any struggles or issues going on in their life, that we can then acknowledge that, hear that, put it to the side, big heart, serve everybody else once we've served ourselves. They are my values. I think I've got everyone there.
Love that. And are they the same? Are your personal values the same as
100%.
your business values?
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I am the leader of my business, it has to be my values.
Yeah.
That I will then work with the team, and that is incumbent on me to choose the right team members to be in that team.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we do in our hiring process is we send people the values, and then we say to them, "Did you have any thoughts, fears, or concerns around the values?" And if they say no, they were great. I then ask them, "What was your favorite value?" If they can't answer that, it means they haven't looked at them, not taken them seriously, so they don't get the job.
Yeah.
But it's a huge part of hiring and firing and rewarding in our business.
Yeah. So great values, love those. Mine are a bit more personal, I guess, rather than team focused. I know yours are both, but I haven't really had to think massively about a big team like you do and managing them. And also when I have a team working for me, quite often more than one member has been virtual, which makes it a little bit trickier. But for me, it's the take 100% responsibility, discipline over motivation.
Yep.
Because I spent a lot of time waiting to be motivated, and then I realized one day that it's a farce and it's not going to get you there all the time. Basically, you're only going to be motivated sometimes, and you need to do the things that you need to do whether you're motivated or not. So discipline over motivation, honesty and integrity, human creativity. So this was just creativity, but recently with AI, human creativity means a lot more to me, because there's numerous accounts on Instagram that are posting amazing artwork that's all created by AI. And I know that there's no stopping AI. We're past the point now where it's going to implement and affect and disrupt every industry. And maybe we'll do an episode on that as well, because there's so much to talk about there. But human creativity is very important to me, and just implementing that on a daily basis for me personally is pretty much what keeps me sane. Like I was drawing from as as soon as I could hold a pencil, I was drawing when I was a kid, and then throughout life it's just continued, and it's moved to digital, to video and graphic design and stuff as we've gone on. And then how you do one thing is how you do everything. I know that's quite cliche at this point, and a lot of people use it, but it really is an important thing I've found in my life, like putting a shopping basket back and picking stuff up off the floor. And I didn't used to be like that particular person, but over the years I've trained myself to do it, which goes back to what we talked about in the previous episode, the growth mindset. Just because you're not one way doesn't mean you can't become that way. So now I'm very detail oriented, whereas when I was younger, I never was. And then finally, never stop learning is a core value of mine. So just constant learning and growth, as we've mentioned again in previous episodes. But the reason I do what I do, and the reason we're even sat here, is because I took it upon myself to learn things. And I want everybody to know that you don't have to go to university to do this. There are so many ways to learn things these days. Skillshare, YouTube, online courses. There's pretty much a course if you want to learn to do anything, and you're in a position now where you want to make a change in your life, but you don't have the skills or you don't know how to do things, there are courses that you can take that will teach you exactly that.
Yeah, there was no excuse. Like,
no.
You literally do anything. That's the one value I forgot. We have always been learning.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting? You say our values are different. I don't think they are. I think there's just different words chosen.
Yeah.
Which have different nuance and meaning
probably
to you.
Yeah.
But it's so nice. I like the example you give, like that responsibility. You see something on the floor, you pick it up. Like if you just spend a week in that value, which I think is a value for everybody, they just become deconditioned to it.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I was in the gym the other day. Take the fucking bog brush out and scrub the loo clean, and it wasn't even me who'd been in there. And I can't leave that.
No.
And I know if I leave that, when I leave the room, I'm like, and I've done it before. Like I've left it. I've been like, no.
It bothers you.
Go back in. This is going to really bother me all day. And just talk to this, because I know you have really, over the last couple of months, I'd say, really been living into your values. Like I don't know what was the point that made you change. I don't know whether you know the point that made you change, but you have just gone, this is it, line in the sand change, and you are living in your values. How do you see the difference in your life now you've chosen? Because you're a super successful dude, and everything you do, you make work, which is incredible, which I admire about you.
Thank you.
But what's the difference now, living in your values? And like my team, like you came in the other day for a reassessment of the practice. Everyone in the team read your form and said, "Holy shit, I'm inspired by Lee," which is awesome, dude.
That is awesome.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
What's the difference? How do you feel living in those? What's the difference between why you chose to do it and then how do you feel on a daily basis different to before?
Yeah, so lots of things happened last year. I moved out of a house. I went through a brief separation. Lots of changes happened in my life. And at the end of 2022, I just sat down and really reevaluated. So it's since November I've been going through this. And I was living with some friends, and it wasn't right for me, and the energy wasn't right. And I really just decided I'm really gonna focus. And I'd spent a lot of time in the past visiting friends in the evening and always going out. I'm quite sociable, so I was always going out and about and doing things and going places, and I never really gave myself time for solitude. And that's something that I've really focused on since November. So I never used to cook my own meals because I used to let my partner do it all the time. So I've learned how to cook. I've like just totally shifted the way I do things. And having time in solitude, there's so much to be said for that. So just spending time on my own, journaling, thinking, really planning out everything. And the next episode is going to be about planning the week and stuff. But yeah, it has been really life-changing, and it's nice to know that the team was inspired by that. But I eventually, like, this podcast is about personal development, and I'd love to look into coaching in the future and do things like that. So it was just my way of really knuckling down and really living everything that because I've learned all this stuff, and you learn things through personal development books, and you can read hundreds of books, and I have, but until you really implement it every single day, it doesn't really mean anything, does it?
No.
People say knowledge is power, but it's knowledge and action is power rather than the knowledge. Because if you just
power, like everyone's got knowledge these days.
Yeah, especially these days, like we're living in an information society. And
but I like, and you mentioned AI earlier. Like, is knowledge truth?
Well,
like nowadays, I think knowledge is gained from experience, and therefore you need the action component of it.
Yeah.
Like, you learn along the way.
Until you implement, you've learned nothing. It's like when you do your driving test. You do all your lessons, then you do your test, and then you learn to drive.
Yeah.
You don't learn until you're actually doing it. And it's the same with business. You can read as many business books as you want. I've been self-employed for 8 years or something like that now, and I still learn lessons every single week.
So true. And this is why it's funny. Like, you see these like people coaching online who've never had a freaking business in their life.
The 19-year-old life coach.
That's my head. So we've got the values, we've got like that. And I think a couple of things people can do to inspect their values or start to think about their values is like, show me your bank account, I'll show you your values. Mm-hmm. Like, you spend your money where you value it.
Yeah.
Look around your house. What is it surrounded by? Everything in there. Like, that's your values. So, for instance, you walk into my house, you'll see books, journals, and plants everywhere. Mm-hmm. My values are learning and nature.
Yeah.
If you look at my bank account, you see I will spend money on food, travel, and bettering myself.
Yeah.
So people have their values there already, and they can start to self-inspect and then really reflect and journal each day to figure them out.
Yeah. I think most people would be, if they actually looked at their bank accounts and saw where they were spending their money, they would be distraught because like it's like with chiropractic. Every time I speak to someone about chiropractic, the first thing they say to me is, "But it's so expensive, isn't it? Yeah. I can't afford it." And I'm like, "Bullshit!
It's bullshit.
You can afford drinks, you can afford computer games, you can afford cigarettes, you can afford all these things. You can afford to go out once, twice a month."
It's true.
You can't.
People are still getting a cup of coffee takeout every day,
and all it is priorities.
It's
where priorities are. Like, I spend not a lot of money, but I prioritize my health. So I have a therapist who I speak to every single month, and I've spoken to her since 2014. Now, I don't struggle with mental health issues currently, but it's just another level of personal development for me. She's become a personal development coach at this point. She is an EFT therapist, and she's changed my life in so many ways. I have Reiki and spiritual healing once a month. I see Emma for physio. I come to the chiropractor once a week, and I have gym memberships. So that's where my priorities are on my personal health and mental health, physical health, spiritual health, emotional health. And it's just priorities where you want to invest your money.
100% priorities. And I would be the same. Like, I massage fortnightly. Chiropractic, I obviously get free, but you know, it's a weekly thing for me. I have 2 gym memberships and a home gym. Mm-hmm. I spend a fortune on really good food and supplementation. But I don't own a TV. Mm-hmm. I don't have a subscription service to whatever these things are that people have subscription services to. Look at you and I, we're wearing black t-shirts. That's what my wardrobe is full of. Like, it's like I don't spend money on other stuff.
Every episode we've done, you'll see that I wear the same clothes, and that's because I literally wear the same clothes every single day.
Yeah, and it takes choice out of the window. So let's talk about gifts, and that's the vehicle that you bring your values to. So you've got your values, but then figure out what you're good at. Now, people say, I'm not good at anything. And I like to say, at one time, you had a dream about doing something or being something, and it got lost. Or every time you go out to the bar with your friends, if that's what you choose to do, or you meet someone or socialise, you always come back to talking about something. Mm-hmm. Or there's this thing that your friends and family tell you you're really good at, but you don't necessarily believe it for yourself. Oftentimes, the thing that's stopping you from knowing your gifts or leaning into your gifts is some element of fear, something you're scared of actually doing. And if we can lean into that fear, if we can just sit back and go, okay, I used to dream of doing that. And yet people do tell me I'm good at that all the time. But I've got a bit of doubt, and that doubt breeds fear, and that's the reason I'm not doing it. That's your gift. And so many people miss out on their gifts. Les Brown said, the most expensive real estate in the world is the graveyard of all those unfulfilled dreams and ideas. So I think our gift lies behind our greatest fear.
Yeah, you told me that years ago. So we was at my house, and you were giving me coaching on how to speak on camera.
Yes.
And you know, my biggest holdback and fear has been this: sat on camera talking and doing this. And if you saw the first video that I ever made, which was in like 2015 maybe, I can't talk. I'm like and I can't get the words out.
I remember, dude.
And you told me your biggest gift is beyond your greatest fear, or your biggest achievement is beyond your greatest fear. And now here we are.
You really have lent into that, because I know how difficult that was for you.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are not too dissimilar. I've just been doing speaking probably a little bit longer. And at school, I was fortunate enough to go to a very good school, but the double-edged sword of that was I was one of the lesser students at that school. And I really struggled with dyslexia. I couldn't articulate an argument. I couldn't get a point across. I just shied away. And even more frustratingly, I have a brother who I love dearly, but he's so much more intelligent than I. And I would always lose the conversation. So what did I do? I built muscle and I fought my way back instead of being intellect. But at some point, I had to communicate. And that was a huge fear for me. But now I'm paid and I travel around the world to deliver talks. But it involved me going through my biggest fear. And I tell you, my first couple of talks, they bottomed out, but you have to keep going back into that fear.
Yeah, you have to be willing to be shit when you start to get good. And like these podcasts, you've done a lot more podcasts than me. I am quite new to this, and I will progress as we go, but I'm willing to suck at the beginning, or I'm willing to not be great. And I'm pretty good at talking, fortunately, but I'm willing to suck for 100 episodes if I have to get good at speaking on camera. And through doing my own ads and my own Instagram content for Blitz, I've managed to get better on the camera over time. But it's just time. Like, I used to think that I wanted everything to be good straight away. I wanted my business to be booming straight away. I wanted to be amazing on camera straight away. And I used to read and hear that it takes time and you have to put in the work. And I used to think, no, that's bullshit. I want to just be good now. And now people come to me and they ask me about business, and they ask me about, oh, do you think this business idea will work? Or do you think this will work? And I say, yes, I do. I think it will all work as long as you put in the time and you're committed and you don't have a time frame. Like, if you just do the work until it's successful, and it will be successful. But the gifts, I don't know if you saw, I did a reel and it was me editing a video, and it talks about Ikigai, or Ikigai, I think it's pronounced, and it's a Japanese concept, and I'm just going to read it here. But Ikigai is a Japanese concept that refers to the purpose of meaning of life, or the reason for being. The word Ikigai is a combination of the Japanese words Iki, which means life, and Gai, which means value or worth. Is often described as the intersection of these four elements. And it's what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for.
Yeah.
And that's encompassing that gift. And for me, that is what I'm doing.
Yes.
The creativity, the video, what people need is to find chiropractic, and what chiropractors need is somebody who knows how to market, because you don't get taught that at school. And I'm paid for it because of the value that I bring to my clients.
And the better you are, the better you'll be paid.
Exactly.
And we should, there's nothing wrong with being paid and being successful. And I think people who shun, people charging high value or being paid for what they do just don't understand the worth and aren't on that journey yet. But some people also in this same token get caught up in the comparison. So they'll say, okay, well, my gift is speaking in podcasts, but Tom and Lee are doing it, so there's no place for me to do it. And I say back to that, I say, the world needs you to show up as you, but not everybody needs you.
No.
The world needs you to show up as you, but not everybody needs you, in the sense that there is someone for everyone. So, for instance, I am part of Arate Syndicate, which is a group that is coached by Andy Fuseli and Ed Milet. Now, they are what I would consider at the top of their game.
Definitely.
Now, they are not going to be very relatable to someone who is right at the start of their game.
No.
There's too much of a gap. So you need someone halfway to coach the people beneath them. So there is always somebody for someone else on that journey, and it's incumbent on you to become better and better, move your way up there, and then help other people up that ladder in the same run. So never compare your gift to somebody else. Go for your gift, but in the same token and same breath, do that gift in your own weird and unique way. Don't try and do it in somebody else's way.
Do you think people can have more than one gift?
Yes. Yes, I do. And I think that our gifts may change over time.
Mm-hmm.
So my gift a couple of years ago was high volume chiropractic.
Yeah.
I had a solo practice. I saw hundreds of people every week. I really enjoyed it. I'm still very gifted in adjusting and I teach it. But my gift at the moment is not to be full on like that. My gift now, my purpose now is to help other people achieve that. And that is now less through hand and more through voice.
Yeah. So let's just go back quickly to how people can find their gift and really like dive into it. And you said about what people say that they're good at and things that they used to want to do. And I'm reading a Robert Greene book at the minute, which is a daily laws book. And he talks about that childhood love that you had and to look back and see what you loved before you had everything beaten out of you by the system. And for me, it was creativity. So let's talk about how people can
I think it comes back to what you said about silence and solitude and spending some time in reflection.
Yeah.
Understanding that if you put enough time in and you figure it out, people will pay you to do anything. And that doesn't mean you should do anything that you want. You should do what is yours and not worry about that. I mean, I've got a friend who's got a very successful business selling railway sleepers. But like he was so passionate about selling railway sleepers and he created a huge company from it.
Amazing.
Like so there's something for everyone. So I would say both with the values and with the gifts, which we've been talking about, it's pause, reflect and really think. Like, and I tell people to do this in what they know is already intrinsically one of their values. So, for instance, a lot of people's value really is nature, is being outside, is being part of this planet. So I say do this in that space. You know, some people might really love the hustle and vibe and drive of a city. Go on a city break and do this. Spend that time to really reflect on what do you value in life? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to stand for? And then think about what is it that you really wanted to achieve when you were young? What is it that you really had a passion and desire to do, but then doubt creeped in, or someone told you you're really good at, but then you thought, actually, I am maybe, but I'm not as good as that person. Lean into those and start the journey and the practice of bringing those to life.
Yeah. And I would say also get a pen and a piece of paper or some form of writing. I like that pen and paper, but write down, sometimes I write down who I am and it'll be the future version of who I am. And I'll write down I am, and I'll just list all the things that I want in 5 or 10 years in the future, and then work out backwards, who do you need to become to achieve those things. And like for me, I love trading. I love cryptocurrency, and we're going to talk about that as well in the future episode. But I love crypto, and I would love to trade. But at the moment, it's not for me specifically. But I learn it every day. Every day I look into trading. I'm always watching currencies in the charts. So, and coaching. I'd love to coach people. So I am now putting in place this podcast, everything that I do to learn more myself, to be in the position to do the things that I want to do. So,
which is, it's just, you know, I hope people see us leading by example, and you know, if these two characters here can do what they've done, if you know anything about our backstory, then you certainly can too. So I thought it was a good episode.
Yeah,
I want to thank people for listening today, and remind them that you know, please do share the show with people that you know. It's a new show, and we really want to grow it to really serve our communities, for everybody to come better, especially as the world is going at the moment. It is your priority to become excellent at what you do, and don't take it all for yourself. Charge forward with other people. So really share this episode out, and I'll let you explain a little bit more how they can maybe do that.
Yeah, so please share this episode wherever you want. Leave any comments that you have, any questions, anything you'd like us to talk about in the comment section on YouTube, or emails will be in the description of the podcast wherever you listen to it. Yeah, like you were saying, it really is your obligation to be the best you can be. So I hope that you get something from this podcast. If you do, please share it, and we'll see you in the next episode.